quitter.
Huh?
I'm a quitter.
Oh.
I quit stuff.
What do you quit?
I
think I know what you're going to say. But
I know. You know what I quit. We'll talk about that.
Is there more than one thing?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, I quit Babe Ruth baseball. I was done. Didn't want to do it anymore.
Did you really? You quit like in the middle of the season?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember if there was like a real... Like, were we not... I feel like there was like an agreement with our parents. Like if we started a season, we finished a season. But I don't know. I might be making that up in my head. But the closest I ever came was...
It wasn't the middle of the season. That's not true.
Okay.
So we were on day 3 of tryouts.
Okay, so
and
before
I was like, I knew I was going to get picked. And I was like, I don't actually want to do this. So I was like, I'm not going to play. So there you go.
The worst coach I ever had was, you know what micro soccer? No, it's not called micro soccer. Is it? Micro soccer is, I think, a certain type of soccer where they teach on fields for like very young kids. And I forget what the difference is, but there's an indoor soccer league. But it's on like
3-on-3.
It's on a smaller field.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I freaking loved it. And we were like the team that I was on, we were really, really good. But it wasn't like our main thing, and not everyone could be on the team. And I remember during the regular season saying to the coach, like, when are we doing that? When are we doing that? When are we doing that? And he kept like putting, like, kind of like deflecting the question. And then next thing I knew, like, it was like just his son and like however many other people.
Oh.
And they had a team, which we'd done it like years prior. And there was so much of that, so much of the
political bullshit.
It's funny. Like my dad coached baseball and my dad refused to play that game. And, which obviously switching sports here, but it's in every sport.
Baseball's a pretty political sport though. Cause you can cover kids up on a baseball team. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
So
yes.
You can cover up the shitty kids.
I mean, you could sit kids on a soccer team too. And not like, but I remember when my dad coached baseball, they were something to do with like when they would go and select the teams. And this is like elementary school. Like who cares? You know what I mean? It might've been, yeah, I know for a fact this was still in elementary school. And when they went to go select teams, I remember my dad, I wasn't there, but like what we had heard is he said something about like, basically, I don't care, I'll take whoever. And they were talking about things with like coaches' sons and different things that happen. And he was like, no, like none of that needs to happen. And so he was like, I'll take everyone you guys don't want, is essentially what my dad did. And so we really had a team. Like if you looked at it, you were like, cool, we're not winning. You know, and it was like you were on your if your dad was coach, you were on your dad's team. And I remember kind of feeling like that. And my dad was just like, here's the deal. Like, you're going to show up for practices. Everyone's going to practice. And as long as you do that, everyone's going to play. Like, there will be no favoritism. Like, and so we weren't very good at first, but we practiced really well. Like, everyone showed up, and my dad stuck to that. And there were definitely times where when someone was on the field, you were just like, or up to bat. You're like,
sure,
come on, right? But what's crazy is we wound up making it to playoffs, and we wound up making it to the championship game. And the other team took it so serious that the pitcher was on vacation, and they actually had him come back early from his vacation. Like, we need this, this guy. And we wound up winning the championship that year. And it was the only year. And it was like I don't remember the whole like drama with it, but my dad would be able to rehash this better than I can. But like, it was the only year where they gave out ribbons to the championship team.
Oh,
we didn't get
really?
trophies. So yeah, politics and youth sports
Dude,
are
like,
hilarious.
I'll tell you what. I mean, by the time I have kids, like, I'm going to be 20 years older than all of the other dads. So I'm going to have no time for this bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to have no time for it. I don't know. It's going to be, I wouldn't, but here's the thing though, is like, even if I would never have time for that shit. You know what I mean?
Would you coach?
If I had to. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
I don't remember why my dad coached. Because it's not like I'm like, I do remember, I don't know if he still has it. Have you ever seen the sweatshirt? My dad has, I don't think he's bought new clothes in decades.
Your dad and I are of the same spirit.
And he used to have this sweatshirt. It wasn't a hoodie. It was just like a sweatshirt.
Crew neck, yeah.
And it had a surfer but there was a shark underneath the wave, and the surfer had a talk bubble or a thought bubble or a talk bubble. I forget, but it just said, "Oh shit," and he wore it to baseball practice with all these elementary school kids.
Like their dads don't swear.
No, I know, but I remember one of the kids being like, "Hey, Mr. Merritt," and repeating back. He's like, "Oh,
whoops."
Like that's kind of coach my dad was, but it was cool. Like it wasn't at first because you're like, "No, I want to freaking win," but obviously win the championship that year, and then having that, like, you almost have that like underdog. But it's also really cool now being older and like reflecting back on the way that my dad did that and being like, no, like there's not gonna be any favoritism here.
It's
like
fucking
don't
little league baseball.
Exactly.
Yeah.
None of this is going to matter.
Have you
You're all gonna play.
Have you listened to or read Hidden Potential by Adam Grant?
Yeah.
Did you really talk about the Finnish school system? Do you remember that chapter?
Man, I read it a while ago. I forget.
It like makes me want to raise my kids in Finland because of the way that they approach education and like kind of almost akin to like a Montessori school, but like spread out over your entire educational career. And they beat everybody's ass like in academic performance, you know, but like one of their credos is like, I'm going to butcher exactly what it is, but it's something like performance does not take a front seat to well-being. You know what I mean? And just like I grew up really good at sports, and like the pressure that was put on me because I was fucking 9 and good at shit was like, and you get whatever it is, you know what I mean? But it was just stupid.
It's
you know?
the kid that like is forced to pitch game after game.
Dude, that was me.
Like,
yeah. I had heat stroke because I was forced to pitch game after game. So
it's funny that book. So I have a number of bookshelves in my office, but that book is on a shelf that's like a definite reread.
Oh, dude, it's so good.
But what's funny is I'm like, I forget.
There's so many things about it. I mean, that was just topical, but it's a really good book.
Yeah.
But I just was, and that's where I know
especially
I recommended
it to Patty. I know Patty read it. Like I recommended it in a staff meeting. But
just some of the shit in like areas like this where people are just so fucking hardcore about their kids playing sports year round and doing it like, just like, I don't know. It's just, and this is gonna sound.
We've seen it with some
parents for sure.
that have.
It's like, listen, man. Like, and this, I know of one person in my entire life that achieved so far beyond their head that it was unbelievable, and that was Josh Hall. Like Josh Hall, by genetic standpoint, was like he's big, but like he wasn't a professional athlete. But you know what I mean. But
he was.
But he was, and he played in the NFL for 5 years, and he also played 3 different sports, and had, you know what I mean. And so all of these people that just get so fucking bent out of shape.
He walked on in college.
He was a walk-on. He was invited, but he was a walk-on, and then earned a scholarship, and all these things. But it's just so funny to me because it's like you, in most circumstances, it is just so visible if your kid is going to be that good. It's like you can tell pretty young, and it's like, and even so, they should play other sports. They should do other things. They should have a childhood. It just drives me fucking batty when I see these people like, my kid's 12 now. He's an elite athlete. No, he's not. He's a fucking 12-year-old boy. You know what I mean?
If this person listens to this podcast, I highly doubt it. This, like, sorry, not sorry. Remember we got a voicemail the other day, and it was like, I don't remember how old they said their kid was, but it was like, I think the age was like 12, 13. It was like, I've got 12, calling to ask some questions about your training program. I've got a 12, 13, whatever year old kid, elite athlete. And I was just like, delete.
Yeah.
Like, nope.
No, they're 12. And the kind of pressure that you want to put on a 12-year-old, like, do you like doing it? Yeah. Are you having fun? And that's where you need to be. And I think that's even with most things. Like, are you having fun? If not, why the fuck are you doing it? So,
which I actually think segues right into
what we're talking about.
What we're talking about today.
For sure.
So what'd you quit?
Oh, I gave up on rock climbing this year. It just wasn't fitting. You know, I had this goal to boulder a V4, and it was one of those things where it just didn't fit. And I think that especially outcome goals need to fit with your process goals and back and forth and between those two things. And it was something that I put it up. I enjoyed rock climbing, but there are other things that I enjoy more, and I don't want to spend my time inside right now. You know, and I just don't want to go. I don't feel as connected to that as I do with other things. Now, I think the difference is if it was part of a process to prepare for something, I'd be over there every day if I had to. But it's not, because like if I was going on a mountain goat hunt or something where, you know, my climbing skills are going to keep me safe, that'd be a different experience, but it's just not. So I canned it, you know, it wasn't fitting. I'd rather be outside. I'd rather hike. I'd rather run. I mean, honestly, at this point, like I come here and lift 2 days per week, and that is it, because I want to be outside, doing all my other workouts. So it was just one of those things where I think it's good to hear it from us, and also for people to check in and make sure that their goals still fit at some point throughout the year, and make sure that, you know, so for example, I found out I'm going to spend like the back half of the summer in California. You know that, not everybody else knows that. And I did some looking. I was like, man, I know that they have early seasons out there for hunting, and their archery deer and archery black bear season opens while I'm there. And so as soon as I saw that, I was like, well, I'm doing that. And it got me fucking excited. And so like now I'm thinking about my processes for getting ready for that, like shooting my bow, the fitness I need to do, whatever it is, because I'm going to be in the high country. And so now from there, it's something that I'm really excited about. So all of the other things kind of fall into place and make it make sense. Whereas, you know, I set the goal of climbing. It was almost like it was fun, but it was almost like an avoidance thing, where I had something fucked up happen to me when I was on a mountain, and it scared me. And so it's like, well, I have this gap that I need to go fill in. And so that's why I did it. But it wasn't really like I'm approaching something that I'm excited about. And I think that that's kind of why it faltered, is one reason. And the other thing is, I like when we talked about, I thought about doing the Georgia Death Race with you or something, or like people ask me if I'm going to run ultras or something like you did. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that, because I'd have to give up so many other things that I enjoy doing to put the time in to be able to do that. And it's like, I love photography. I don't enjoy running, but I enjoy seeing the progress that I'm making with it. I love hiking. I'm hunting. I'm fishing. I'm doing all of these kind of things. And all those things congeal into things that I love, what I want to do, and things that also help me progress. But that goal just didn't fit like I thought it was going to fit. So I cut it, and I don't feel bad about doing that, you know? Yeah. Or I think that some people hang on to things that they think they should hang on to because they set the goal and they need to see it through. And it's like, well, it's for what? It's not like if you don't go do it, your family won't eat. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's to see if you can progress as a person. And that's, I think, just being able to take a step back and reevaluate how meaningful something is to you is an important thing to do.
Absolutely. I don't have this fully formed, so just go with it. But if climbing had a direct impact on your goal, you'd still be climbing, right?
Absolutely, I would. Yeah.
So it's not, and I'm going to bring this to something that is going on currently in the gym without saying the person's name currently in the gym, but I think that there's a takeaway here for people. It's not, you got better at climbing. You learned a lot about climbing.
Yeah, fair. I mean,
I don't know if I want to say a lot, but
I learned.
You would, if you went back and met the clone of yourself on the first day of climbing and you climbed step for step with that person, you would kick that person's ass.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I progressed. I absolutely made progress.
So like, it's not for nothing. And it still may come back and be helpful at some point. Plus, you might find that like just thinking out loud, especially in this area, might be just a better wintertime activity for you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I like to be outside.
Yeah. So, but all that to say is like, and I'll make this relate, because at first you might be like, how is this related? But you know, we just started the nutrition coaching program, and we have someone who signed up, like apparently like it spoke to them. They have this, I want to do whatever their thing is. I don't know, because they didn't write it, which is what I'm getting at. All that we're in is a prep week. And this has to do with goals. Hence why I'm bringing it up now. All we're in is a prep week. And most of prep week is about setting awareness, intentions, goals. Like, and really, I mean, more so, I would say, goals, intentions, awareness. And so like what do you really want from this, awareness of things that may derail you, and then intentions of like what you're actually going to do about things that may derail you, but also what you'll need to do to be the type of person that you want to be at the end of this time frame, right? And I know that you know this, but I'm just saying it because I think that everyone can learn from an instance like this. It's not like you went, I have this goal to climb, and then the thought of doing the work stopped you from doing it, and now you're telling yourself that it's not
at all that,
right?
No. Yeah.
So an interaction that we're currently having, and there isn't a conclusion to it. Like I think there will be a good conclusion to it. So I'm not like trying to out this person. I'm not trying to make them feel bad. I do hope they listen to it and that this actually helps them. But we can see compliance in the nutrition coaching program, and it's 0%. They haven't done anything, and there's not it can look like a lot of work, but it's like, you know, you've been through, or you're working through the James Smith Business Academy stuff. Like,
I'm done with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did it. Yeah.
So it was really like if you look at it, it's like, oh my God, you scroll forever and there's all these different like headers of like topics, and then the drop down, there's like, oh, video. But each video is like 3 minutes.
Some of them are longer.
Like some of them are a little bit longer, but nothing crazy, right? Super digestible. And that's actually a perfect example. Some are longer. It's the same exact thing with prep week. Some are videos, some are written. If you just look at it, it can look like a whole bunch of work. And essentially what I've gathered is this person looked at it, and what they think it's going to be in terms of work is keeping them from even taking the first step. And so first I reached out because there was just nothing. There was crickets, and it's like, hey, like I'm not seeing anything from you. I want to make sure you're getting our messages, that you're in the app, everything's making sense. Took a while to get a reply, and then I got a reply, and it was like basically, yeah, man, this is a lot of work, like SMH, shaking my head. And I'm just like, okay, like I think that you are making a reaction to looking at it, but not actually doing it. Like, it's not a crazy amount of work. And this is just prep week. We slow down to one simple task per week after this. It gets super easy. And this initial prep work is going to help you out so much mentally. And then there was no reply to that. And then today it was, I think that I need to back out of this. Like I'm busy, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, my reply was kind of like, you think that you are. Like, I know that you aren't. Like, and I'm not saying that being combative, like, but like, I know that you aren't. And I shared, like, to anyone that listened to the episode with Corey a couple weeks back, that's exactly what Corey did, right? But this is where you have two different potential, I'm sure there's more than two, but two outcomes. You could be like Corey and go, okay, it's okay that I feel like this is too much for me, or whatever, you know, story you're telling yourself. But like, what if because one of the lessons in there, but they haven't gotten to it, is like how little it takes. The old Precision Nutrition article, like about how just barely doing anything, I think it's like the 49% compliance is actually where the majority of results, like they do these bars of like weight loss, percentage of body fat lost, inches lost, all this stuff. Like, they have the largest gain. And then there's, you know, a little more gain when you go to higher compliance from that, a little bit more when you go to this like almost perfect compliance. And then, or like, yeah. And then like, yeah, like the best results are at that like super, super high, like elite compliance. But best comparatively for like time put in, it's not a crazy amount more, right? So, I think sometimes, since we were talking about essentially quitting on a goal, but I don't think you've quit on your goal, to be clear. Like,
no, I just realized it wasn't
fitting the overarching goal.
Yeah.
But like, there is a time to quit, but there's also a time not to quit. And so all that to say, like, I would give you pushback. I give you no pushback for that one. Right. But I do think there's a wrong time to quit goals. And someone might be listening to this and be like, you're saying this because there's a financial component to it. Like, no, I honestly, I don't care about that part. Here's a weird hypothetical. What if Corey didn't? You know what I mean? Like, think about,
his life would be completely different.
Think about like where he is today.
Our lives would be completely different.
Our lives would be completely
People
different.
in this gym's lives would be completely
Bingo.
different. Yeah.
That is what, like, and I'll do a dark one. Like, we don't need to say the person's name, and we maybe have mentioned this on a podcast before, but one of the things, like when I look at situations like this, that still eats me up the most is having sat down with a person specifically looking at these simple nutrition habits and them telling stories of like, well, with what I do for work, I have to entertain clients all the time. I have to eat the biggest, tomahawk ribeye with all of the sauce, you know what I mean? And
no, you don't.
If I get a salad, like I won't get the sale, like that. It's like, what? And that person
Died.
has since had 2 strokes and died.
Yeah.
Left behind young kids, a wife, a great life, right? Like, and I realize that can sound like cheesy and what the hell, Todd was just talking about quitting climbing, but like, there's a time to quit and there's a time to commit. And I think all that said, I guess, I don't think that you've quit on anything. You've just adjusted your actions
towards. Yeah, quit was just the funny word to use.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just to like wrap that, if this person's listening, they're like, so what are you saying to do? It's like, I think we need to investigate. You're very self-aware and you have a very clear why and now what for this adjustment, right?
For everything that I do.
Yeah.
But something that might be helpful here is something that Gary just said fucking 45 minutes ago when he was walking out the door. He's like, I don't always feel like coming here.
Especially on Thursday, I'll bet right now.
Yeah, he's like, but he says to himself, of course you don't. And then he goes anyway. And I think that's where it's so much of a perception and almost like an emotional regulation thing and expectations of, well, you look at something and you want to make a massive change in your life or you want to make something better. What do you expect? Do you expect to do no work? I mean,
bingo.
Do you expect to just show up and it say, here it is? Like, because nothing happens that way.
No.
And so when you look at that and you say, of course I feel like this might be a lot. Now what do I do about it?
Yeah.
How do I make that better? And how do I change that? Because it's like, obviously not the same, but I could look at like my goal is to go kill a black bear and kill a black-tailed deer on the same hunt with a bow. And you can look at that and say, well, maybe that seems inconsequential to some...
With one arrow.
I'm going to shoot them both at the same fucking time. No, but like that's my goal, right? And in a state that's on the other side of the continent. And I could sit there and let that overwhelm me and say, well, God, there's so much to learn. Well, there's this, there's that. Like, there's the physicality of it. I haven't shot my bow in a few months. Like, I need to get my bow restrung. I don't know fucking shit about hunting black-tailed deer. I know that I see them on Leanne's ranch, but they're skittish. They're tougher to hunt than a mule deer or a whitetail. They're difficult to hunt. I don't know that much about them. We're going into areas that I don't know anything about. What else? Physicality. I'm going to altitude. Like, I'm going to go hunt high because it's fucking California in August. So it's going to be balls hot. And I'm, first of all, not hunting down low. And second of all, the critters are going to be high because it's so hot. And so you can sit there and you could congeal all of this into like, well, why am I even doing it? Yeah. But instead, I take a step back and it's like, how many times a week do I need to shoot my bow to be proficient enough to feel comfortable doing this? What do I need to do training-wise to be able to deal with the physicality of everything in the altitude? What do I need to do to learn about these critters so I know where to look? Then what do I need? I need to scout. I need to look at my Onyx maps and scout the areas. And based on what I learn about I already bought a book about black-tailed deer. I'm going to read it. I'm going to read a little bit every day, look at the maps, figure stuff out, talk to people. And it just, from that, you just build out a process. And it's just shrinking all of these things that seem gargantuan into little tasks. And by the end, I'm going to go out there and I'm still probably going to get my ass kicked. I think I have a better chance of killing a bear than I do a deer. Yeah. But I'm still going to get my ass kicked. But it's like, it doesn't feel as daunting because I've just taken it all and broken it into the little things that need to be done to be able to get to where I want to go.
So there's another way that you could do that. And you wouldn't do this. I don't think you would. Especially not out there. Maybe somewhere else in the country or in the world you would. You could hire a guide and you wouldn't have to think about any of that. But just hear me out.
I hear you.
Hear me out. Yeah. And you wouldn't have to think about any of that. You would just have to follow the process. And in a way, that's what the gym is.
No,
Like,
for sure.
Like, think about what, I keep going back to Corey, but think about what he said in the video that we have on the homepage of the website, where he said, I used to look up, should I be doing this split or that split? Should I be, he's like, and this is mental energy that I need to be using elsewhere, right? In my life. Need to and want to be using elsewhere in my life. I don't want to think about that stuff. Like, we take care of that. And it's the same exact thing. You don't even need to worry about that with the nutrition coaching program. So it would be the equivalent of you having a guide just go, hey, I can't guarantee, but I'm going to give you the absolute best chance of getting the shot. I can't guarantee that you'll make the shot.
But, well, adjacent, not the same thing, but adjacent. But, like, I know people that live in Reno, Nevada, and that's right across the border, and they understand the places where I'm going to hunt, you know, and if you think I'm not going to fucking talk to them, I'm absolutely going to get as much information as I possibly can, you know?
But, like, so this person, basically what you just did, those would be like your process goals. Those are all the process things. Yeah. Like in the gym and in the nutrition coaching program, we give you the process goals. Now you have,
you choose how you approach them.
Yeah. And you have your outcome goals, and that may modify the process goals a little bit, but for the most part, and if you need further clarification, you can schedule a sit down with any of us anytime, and we can help you with that process, right? Like and setting those process goals. And that's why I said about like goals, and the intentions. But the only thing left for you to worry about, so everything you talked about was process, but now would just be your if-thens. So like, and for you, there's probably just a whole lot of unknowns, right? Mm-hmm. So you could
I'm incredibly comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I get that. And that's one of the things that, like, both from personality standpoint and from a skill standpoint does not bother me.
Yeah.
And I get that a lot of people that, and that's what it segues into, that is a lot of what we're talking about, all of what we're talking about is based on skill development for the most part. And I think people need to understand that goal setting, not just goal achievement, but goal setting is a skill. Understanding how to take action on those goals is a skill. Yep. And unless you practice it, you're never going to be able to do it. And so like looking at this information that seems daunting, getting the help that you might need to figure out how to chunk it down and then take action is how you develop the skill to, first of all, be able to do it. Second of all, make it not so scary and realize that it's just fear that's stopping you. And so having the process, leaning on the guidance, developing the skill is going to take that away. But another thing is and I know this is what you're doing with the program, is to step back and say, really get clear on why this is meaningful and what it's going to help you do. Because if you don't know that, it's like any disruption, anything that seems scary is going to stop you.
Yep.
And so you really have to, part of it is like, for me, like, yes, I want to go kill the critters because I enjoy eating it. I enjoy doing it. And I'm not going to lie, like, the deep old human part of me finds excitement in being in that moment and having to make that decision and do all of that kind of stuff. Like, and I feel no shame about that. But there's another part of me that just sees the high alpine lakes and sitting on a hill and glassing and being able to take in the entire experience. And so I understand what I want from it. And also having Leanne there with me, who's like my sister. It's like I can see this whole experience and I know what I want from it. And so it just allows me to say, well, I rarely feel like running. I'm not going to feel like doing the 2-hour conditioning sessions that I need to do, just a slow fucking drudge to be ready to do it. But I know what I want from it.
But you have quite a few professional obligations.
Yeah,
right?
I do some stuff.
You have, so you're a busy dude, right? So I'll make this topical. This person hasn't done like one of the drills is if-thens. So basically, like, you know this, but if-thens are like, what are the things
that could sidetrack
you? Yeah, this isn't your first rodeo. Have you ever pursued something in the past and had things derail you? Internal, external, whatever. And so it's like, let's think about this pursuit. What are the things that could potentially derail your progress? And instead of waiting until they happen, why don't we just game plan for them now? Now, obviously, there could be unknowns that come up. cool. Let's just make sure that we stay.
Well, you control what you can
Yeah.
control, so you can deal with the unknowns.
But like, if this, then that. And so essentially this person, their whole thing is just like, I'm really busy right now.
Well, I don't think that that's.
But my point is, you're really busy, and you could be like, I'm overwhelmed with this, that, the other thing. Like, but it just comes down to prioritization. Like, it's important to you, right? And I realize, like, some people will be like, it's just, if it's a priority, you'll do it. But like,
Not necessarily.
yeah, it's sometimes the things that you want the most, you have the most resistance to actually do.
Because then you have to become a different person. It's a fearful thing. And so like, one of the things that I wrote this down, and I have like a running tab for notes in my phone now, which I never thought I'd do.
Like for this,
For
or
everything.
like in general?
Just general.
I have tons.
General like content, ideas, things like that.
You should look at Tiago Forte's Building a Second Brain book.
I used to do it on, but what I'm saying is, I used to be strictly pen and paper.
I know.
And now I do it my phone.
But I'm saying, if you're going to do it there, he has the simplification of it, and I don't want to cut you off. I'll make this real fast. Like, is you can create folders in your phone. So now, like, I have like recipes.
Sure.
So when I make something, I'm like, oh, that was real good. I jot down exactly what I did in a note, and then I save it to my recipes folder.
Yeah.
So like, you can get, most people just dump, myself included, just dump next note.
I just have different notes set up. You know what I mean?
Oh, and then
like
you run that
notes.
one note.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
that's what I do. So I wrote like the formula for consistency, and I think it's really three things: environment, purpose, and plan. You have to set up your environment so you can win, to make it easy for you. You have to really know why you're doing it and what's meaningful to you, and then you just have to have a plan. And the thing about the plan is a plan is just to create momentum and to get you to the next action. It doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect. It doesn't mean that you have to stick with it. Like, you look at, what we did to set goals for the beginning of the year. I wrote the climbing goal, and it was the first step in taking action. And it got movement going just so I could get to the next decision and say, you know what, this actually isn't as meaningful to me. I know what my real priorities are. They are hunting, reading, writing, taking care of my body, and photography. These are the things that I love. And if it doesn't, like, now if it was like, hey, you have this opportunity to go do this incredible photography gig, but you got to have some climbing skills, you fucking better believe I would be on that wall. I'd be on it every day. But it's because there's an outcome. And it's like looking at, I know that everybody that listens to this knows that I don't enjoy running, but I know what it does for me. So I do it all the fucking time. Not all the time. I do it 3 or 4 days a week.
You ran here, you're going to run home.
I ran here. I run everywhere. But that's the thing is, like, you have to set up your environment the best you can. You have to know, you have to really desire something, a state shift, not maybe an outcome. You might, or even just seeing the person that you'd like to be, and what does that person like, and then having a plan to get there. And sometimes the plan is self-created, and sometimes, like, if you go into different domains, like, partially you have to look at your own personality, whereas, and that's why I look at mine, like, well someday, how far outside of what you're competent and what you have to navigate are you? And so, for example, we'll use the hunting guide thing. If I was going to Europe or Asia, I have to, it's law, but I would want one because I don't understand as much. You know what I mean? Like, I'd want that support. But here in the United States, like, I first of all don't think that I need it, because I think I can learn enough fast enough to be able to be part of the success. But also, personality wise, I'm not a joiner. I never have been. I'm not a joiner. So it's I don't lean on things in the same way. I have to figure out my own process to do things, but in some instances I know when I need help. And if, like, you have to be comfortable with doing that as well, and understanding in which situations you're over your head and what that help looks like. Who knows? But I think that that's just something that people need to consider when they think about goals and sticking to them, and whether or not they're doing the things that they need to do to set them up for success. And there's certain parts of my personality that are, honestly, I will admit, are just too fucking stubborn. And I should probably let go of aspects of it and I would be farther ahead. But we'll get there, I guess, maybe.
With a strong maybe at the end.
It's very strong maybe. A near certain maybe.
I know we have like our, man, like not feeling his content as much or whatever at times, but I listened to a Hormozy, it was a YouTube video, but I guess it's like his podcast. He's doing video form. It was pretty good. It was like about people that buy, it was like how to outlearn everybody, I think was the title of it. And he was talking about how essentially he was making this because he's just sick and tired of people that go, yeah, I bought, such and such course and it didn't work for me.
You didn't do anything.
And he was like, he goes, like this one irks me. He was like, and he literally at one point in this recording, he gets like, and it's just like there's no edits or anything. So at one point he gets kind of fired up. He's like, all right, I'm going to reel that back in because he basically was like, I've bought tons of courses. He's like, you could approach courses in different ways. And he breaks down this like level 1 to level 5 type of like student. He's like, but anytime I've joined a course, he's like, regardless of what my like, oh man, this course sucks, whatever. My goal is just, I'm going to be their best student ever. I'm going to be the biggest success to ever come out of this. He's like, the unfortunate side of that, and where he started to get like fired up, he goes, is that there are a lot of people out there who I've bought their course and I did do really well with it. And now they claim that they're responsible for my success. He was like, but when I'm more successful than you, every student that you've ever had combined, like, it's like, oh, but anyways, but the one thing that he said, where he was talking about like the different level of people and, delivery is everything. And I couldn't deliver it in the way that he said it, but I get it. Where he was talking about when he had the gym, someone that went on to become one of his absolute best, highest referring clients. At one point there was this, they came in wanting weight loss. But they were I've got the thyroid thing and the this and the that and the other. And then they had this thing going where right when they started it, she was like, oh, like, for me and blah, blah. And he was like, do you want me to tell you, like, what if that's all true? Now what? Do you want me to tell you that you're right? Or do you want to get skinny? I could tell you that you're right. And then, and it's like, obviously, like some of the stuff that he says, which I'm like, whatever. And, when he was here local and we heard people come over from that gym that he was selling out of, some of the stuff that he said, I was like, this is before we had any clue really who he was. But there's a level of truth to that in terms of stories that you tell yourself and like no one calling you on your bullshit of your stories. Right. Yeah. And I would give credit to him again. Like, I don't think he's the one that like officially came up with it, but I constantly refer to like that. Everyone uses the like, well, I'm just so busy right now. And it's like, do you ever think that you're like going to have a period of your life where you're not busy at all? Like for just like from here on, I'm never going to be busy again. No. So there's always going to be periods of your life where you're going to be busy. So what if you actually started this and were successful while you're busy? You'll be that much more successful. You can weather any storm with it. And at the times where things are more chill, you've already got it done. Like, yeah. It's like, so then start when you're busy.
I think another thing too to think about is what's taking up space and energy and bandwidth that doesn't need to. Because if you think about it, that's, you look at something, let's say you look at something that seems daunting, but it's going to help you. You're wasting some energy somewhere else that's stealing your ability to look at that and say, oh, I can handle this. Yep. And people can sit there, I don't have anything like that. And I'm going to say bull fucking shit because everybody does. Like there's something that you're paying attention to that you don't need to pay attention to that's stealing your ability to pay attention to the things that you need to pay attention to. And I think that would be a huge thing for people. But in another way too is like understanding your emotional response to things like this and not putting yourself in a position to beat the piss out of yourself because you don't know what to do right now. And I think that's what happens is like some of these statements come out as they're really self-judgment and they're fear. And they come out as like, oh, I can't do that, or I'm too busy, or this or that or this. It's like really you're scared about your capabilities and your competence. And so what do you need to do? You either need to get competent or you need to outsource your competence. And that's how you give yourself the motivation intrinsically to be able to do what you need to do. That's how self-determination theory works. Whereas like I know, because there wasn't this exact research. The people that were experts in self-determination theory said, well, I don't think it really works that way. And I'm like, I think it fucking does. Because if you don't feel competent, you will not create self-derived action. Mm-hmm. You won't do it. So you need to outsource it, or you need to figure out how to get competent. And then you'll do the thing, you know? And in the meantime, realize, like, I don't know what to do right now. Well, of course you don't. You're just starting. And that's all right, but you got to do something. At least try, you know? And so I think that that's where that can help, because people just get in this cycle of like beating the piss out of themselves, and then it just gets worse, and then you do fail and you don't do anything, and then you're back at the same place you were, or you're worse off. And so you got to figure out how to defeat that cycle, you know?
And in this instance, and here, like, I'm speaking directly to not just this person, but anyone that feels this way about like making dietary changes. You're going to eat anyways. You're not too busy to eat. So literally, like, all we're doing is talking about something that you're already doing.
Yeah.
And we talk about a spectrum of like the worst thing you could possibly do and the best thing that you could possibly do. You're not, I don't know what the worst thing you could possibly do is probably mainline like heroin and then
black tar.
Like, I don't, you know
probably
what I mean? Like,
not in nutrition, because that's not actually a nutrition.
But I'm saying that then whatever. Yeah. But yeah. I digress.
The worst thing you could do is not eat for 40 days, because then you die.
Yeah. I mean, but point being, like, you're not going to do the worst thing you could possibly do.
No.
You're not going to do the best thing you could possibly do. No one is. No one is.
What is that even?
And yeah, no one even knows what it is. But when you can just realize that somewhere on this infinite spectrum, there's just a dot, and it's where you currently are. And like, instead of making the like, just do a little better, like the people that only did 49% compliance, like, got these amazing results. Like, it doesn't even need to be that complicated. Like, well, what does 49% look like? If you're currently doing this, and if this is the side towards better, and you just go like this, that will net you results of moving towards the type of person that you want to be, until you ride that out, and you need to go to here.
Well,
like,
and part of that is
you don't need to have it all figured out and do everything.
There's a lot of like people misrepresent how hard something's going to be. They get a boogeyman built in their head,
especially in this circumstance,
and they think it's going to be way harder than it actually is. There's going to be parts that are difficult. Absolutely, you should not have the expectation that everything's going to be a walk in the park. But like, people build things up to be way scarier than they actually are, and that stops people before they get started. I had another point and it slipped my mind. Fuck.
While you're thinking of that, like, you're always going to have stress. We can talk about being busy, but you're always going to have stress.
Yeah.
I told you about that book, that podcast. I was like, man, if everyone listened to with Mo Gaudat, or I'm probably butchering his last name.
I don't know. Yeah.
The one that I was saying that he lost his son, but his new book is called Unstressable, and I'm not super far into it, but so far, and it's like perfect for what, like, I mean, you know, we lost one of our dogs yesterday and it absolutely sucked, but it's like, I'm reading this book about stress, and he has this acronym for the TONN, TONN, and it's like all stress comes from this acronym: trauma, obsessions, nuisances, and noise. Like, all stress can be boiled down into those things. Trauma, like, is what you would, super traumatic events like what happened yesterday, and you could, you know, they are things that happen essentially to you. They're completely out of your control, and they rock your world, right? Like, obsessions are like just you, like, it could start as like noise in your head that you let build, and it just becomes an obsession, and you're constantly going on it. Nuisances are like all of the little things that most people think trauma is like, where people with like PTSD and major stress disorders, like it all is like, it's because of that. And for most people, it's because of the buildup of nuisances is essentially what they're laying out in the book. And like, all of these things can kind of congeal, but like, nuisances can be, you're sitting, like, your commute, your traffic, like, people around you, like, that are stressing you out, you know, whatever, like,
sure.
And then noise are just little chatter that kind of comes and goes in your head. Right. It might be like, what in the world does this have to do with like the goals stuff and all that? But like, you want to accomplish X, but you're letting some noise right? It's not an obsession. You're not obsessing over I'm too busy to do anything. But right now you're just letting this noise like take up the headspace. Be like, you know what? I am too busy to do that. Like, but hey, at some point you're going to be, less busy later. And the whole, and again, I'm not super far in the book, but I've listened to him on a podcast and everything, is like so much of stress. And the reason why it's called unstressable is like so much of stress is within your control. Like, so someone that's like your commute.
Why do you think we do eustress training?
Yeah. But even think of like, if you're like, well, you can't control that commute, like DC area, traffic
control
sucks,
your response
right?
to it.
So he's like, you could change your job. You could change where you live. You could adjust. Like he gives the example of, he was in New York City and he was like, man, taxi cab. He was like, taxi cab drivers in New York City are freaking angry. So he went to Subway, and then the Subway, he was like, you're packed in there like sardines, like it's the timing's all screwed up.
There's nothing
like,
about that city that I want to be.
And he's
a
like,
part
no.
of.
So he was like, fine, I'll walk. Well, the walk, like everyone is like, just flying, like cruising through, and he was the same way, like head down, got to get to my location. But then he looked at it like, all right, like I got to figure something out. He's like, how long does it take me to walk? And say it was like 36 minutes. He was like, what if I left 15 minutes earlier? I could stroll. I could stop and grab a cup of coffee. I could actually pick my head up and look around and enjoy watching other people be super, you know what I mean? And like, but the whole thing is just like, it could be the noise of like, I'm too busy, or it could be,
you always have a choice.
The noise of like, whatever it is that's bothering you, that like, I want to be this person, but I'll never, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you are in control of so much more of that.
That's what Leanne always, I think she has I don't think she has a tattoo of it, but she says it all the time. And I don't know if it's just her saying, but she says it. If you don't change it, you choose it.
Yeah.
That's it. Like you have more control. You don't have to do the things that you're doing. Yeah. There are certain circumstances in some situations for sure that like you're just fucking stuck. But in most cases, you're not just fucking stuck. You're choosing something that you don't need to choose. So, and I've been there. I'm not saying that in judgment. We all do that shit. We all do. There's all shit that we can change that we don't do it. But it really taking a step back and realizing that that's the case, then it opens things up for you. It changes the way that you perceive everything. But yeah, I don't know.
Did you think of what you were?
What?
Whenever you were like,
I didn't. I did not. It's tough, I mean, and I understand feeling like, well, what the hell can I do about this? And like seeing something that feels daunting and just pushing it off to the side, and saying like, I can't, but I don't know, man.
We all do it.
Yeah, but we all do. But
I'll give you the reason why no one could see, because I had the camera just on you, but I raised my hand when you were saying that and chuckled at you. I don't know if you realize why, but it's
the Georgia death race.
No.
Oh.
What? I mean, sure, but no, like very topical right now. Like I told you recently, like I can't write these damn emails.
Oh yeah.
And
you can.
And first you were like, dude, I'll do them, but right? And like that didn't sit right with me. And then you come up to me and you were like, they don't need to be good. Like knowing I'm not going to put out crap, but just that, like, just do your first draft of them. Like just go write them. And then, like, man, if you go back and you look at, like, we have some, they're not dead because they're still there. You can go back and find some dead YouTube, an old dead YouTube account, Beyond Strength DC. There's some horrible videos on there. Yeah. Like, there's some great videos on there, but there's some horrible videos on there filmed at
Fitness First
in Tyson's, which I think is gone. You put out shit and then get better. You know what I mean? Like,
you have to be willing to be a fool. You have to be willing to try and fail. And I think that's the value is.
But even at that, with that awareness and me sitting here speaking to this person, like I was just doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of still like, I'm working on it, but like, so you can look at one lane and be like, it's so obvious. How's this person not get it? And then you're like, the mirror is held up and you're like, oh yeah, it's the same thing, different context. Like,
yeah, you just have to be, it's like, you have to be willing to not know and make the highest value. Yes, you want an outcome. We all want outcomes, but the thing that allows you to adjust and change your trajectory if you don't get the outcome, and the thing that actually even I think allows you to get started a lot of times is changing your perception of what the goal actually is from the start, and that is to learn. Because if it's just about like, I have to do this perfectly or I have to get this outcome, you're not going to, in most cases, you're not going to do that well. Or you're going to drive yourself fucking nuts as you do it. You're not going to have a good time. But if you think of like, oh, well, the goal is to learn, well, then you can go from point A to the next point and see if that thing worked. You have to give it a fair try, but then you can see if it worked. And if it didn't work, oh, okay, well, then I just have to try the next thing. But it got you moving. Yep. And so you learned whether to integrate something or to not integrate something, and then you can go to the next thing, and then you can go to the next thing. But you have to be willing to just try and it not be perfect and realize that you're learning, and that's the goal. And there's a quote from Adam from that book. What is it? It's
Great.
Yeah, but you have to I'm going too far back. Oh yeah. How do you become a master at anything? You make more mistakes than others make attempts. You just have to fucking try.
Yeah.
You have to fucking try. Like, with anything, with any kind of process, like if you look back at the first pictures that I took with my camera, they were like really fucking good, and I'm just a natural. No, they sucked. They fucking sucked until I like learned what I was doing, and I wanted to learn.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not a fucking incredible photographer by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm pretty good, and it's because I just like, I love it. I wanted to learn, and I let myself learn, and I went and sought information, and I just kept trying. I keep trying stuff, and like, oh, well, that sucks. Don't do that again. Or that's really good. Okay, so how do we continue to do that?
Yep.
You know, that's everything. You're human. It's going to be hard. There's not a time that things aren't going to be hard. It's just changing your perception of that and saying like, well, of course it is. You know, there's not anything that's easy. Not anything that's worth doing or worth having that's easy. You know, yeah. So.
My goal is still.
Oh, we're talking about you?
To get my blue belt. Well, no, I have a story for you. You don't know about this. Happened today. My goal is still get my blue belt this year, but now it's like I'm at the point where it's very.
I got to tell you something, by the way.
Right now, or
we can wait.
Okay, it's very attainable. Like, I have essentially 55 or something more training sessions I need to hit, and I'll be up for my blue belt. I don't know that it's guaranteed after that, but like I have to have that many.
Yeah, that's a prereq.
Classes in 100, and I think it's 140 total. So I've done 85. But the recent noise I've had in my head is like, I'm not even there. I have, 55 more classes to go. I've done 85-ish. I think 85 was today. And I'm already telling myself like, well, I don't want that blue belt. Like,
why?
I do. I want that blue belt.
Why are you saying that to yourself?
I'm going to explain it. I want that blue belt. But I'm going to have a blue belt, but I'm not really going to be a blue belt. You know what I mean? Cuz like, dude, it's going pretty fast. Like I'm super consistent with my training. Hang on, hear me out, cuz I know you want to push back at this, but what's funny is I have to like reflect on the growth I've made in past 20 classes, and then the 20 before that. And I'm sitting here thinking like, no shit, like 55 classes away, you don't deserve that blue belt yet, but you're negating what can happen in 55 classes. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
And
like, I'm sure that all the guys that you roll with would fucking disagree with you.
I would imagine so, except for one really funny thing that happened today. Funny now, dude, I went out today. Out.
You passed out?
Out.
Choked you to death?
Out.
Fantastic.
So,
I'm happy about
first
that.
First time it's ever happened, I think and I did judo for a little bit. I used to do no-gi, a little bit of gi. I've never gone out. And what's funny is one of the guys, I mean, everyone there is awesome. And like, but there's some guys like you get to know better. And one of the guys, B, I've gotten pretty tight with. He's the one that put me out today, but it was like, the whole circumstance, dude. Have you ever been like passed out before? And we were talking about this. Like sometimes growing up, you just did it like but
we used to do a thing where you would breathe out and then someone would push on your chest
and you would go out
and you would like pass out. We used to do that.
So I remember my friends used to do it, and I was always like, nah, I don't want to. I never let anyone like choke me out. But Dustin and all them, they used to be like, yeah, watch, I'll show you. Like it's nothing. And they would like choke each other out and be like, see, and then you just pop right up. So I have passed out. Man, it would have been 2010 or 2011. No, it would have been 2011. And it was right after I went through a breakup. I was like, I don't feel like eating. I don't feel like drinking. And I went into work and they were like, hey, there's the blood donation, whatever is here today. Like, go donate blood. I was like, I probably shouldn't. But then all the other trainers and stuff were like, all right. I was like, whatever, let's go. And didn't pass out when I gave the blood. It was afterwards, like, all right, go up front, you get some orange juice, like I think something to snack on. And like the black, it just went like this, right? Which is not at all what happens in my experience from blood choke. Like, here's exactly how today went. Very, very aware. Like, I'll say because of who I roll with and the times that I can attend, I'm mostly in advanced classes, so rolling with some pretty high level people. So like defensively, I'm very good at seeing things now and defending a lot of things. And that's the feedback I constantly get. And I'm like, yeah, I just want to be good at offense, which I'm getting there. Like, but so like even previous to this today, like similar chokes, I was able to see, defend, or even like kind of get into it, but then be able to defend it. And I get that like, great job, man, your defense is so good. Great job. And so then today, going with B, man, he set it up so well. And I'm just like, crap. Like immediately I was like, I'm in this choke. And you think, so like it's your airway is not what's cut off. I mean, maybe you can, maybe you can't breathe. I don't think I could breathe, but that's not what's going to put you out. You're going to pass out very quick because of blood. So just your brain just goes, nope. So, but dude, what I felt, you would think the room would close in. Nope.
No, you're just gone.
No, here's what I felt. And the whole time in my head, left pinky got really, right hand pinky got really tingly. Ring finger, I was like, okay, like, and I was just thinking, I need to go this way, which with as deep as he had, there's no way to go. Like you turn, you're just twisting that knot tighter basically. And, but in my head, I was like, I still have time to tap. I had no intention. I'm not going, it's not like we're training. I don't need to go out. But I was just like, I'm okay. Like, yep, that hand's getting a little bit numb. And then the next thing I knew, we're still rolling in my mind. And B's going, you okay? And I just lifted my head and I was like, yeah. And he just had this like look on his face. And then I looked to my right and it was later in the class. There was only that and one more roll left. And so a lot of people were fatigued and sat out at this point. So I think there was only me and B and two other people on the mat to begin with rolling at that time. And I looked over though and no one else was on the mats except for the main instructor for that class. And he was walking towards me going, you good? Everyone's asking me if I'm good. I'm like, yeah, what, why are you guys? Oh, so it just hit me. I was like, you just went out. But it was wild because like instantly, like you're like, the only thing was like, you're like a little, for a few seconds, like walking off, you're a little bit like, oh, like
woozy.
Like, I don't even know if that's the right word, but then like 10 seconds later, you're like, I'm 100%, I'm good. But yeah.
That's funny. Well,
fun experience. But it's still my freaking goal.
To what I was going to say to you is, I talked to Adam Willis.
Oh, here we go.
And I told him that you said to me that you don't want to compete as a white belt.
No. I never said that.
I thought you said that to me.
No.
I thought you said I'm not going to compete as a white belt.
I didn't say that.
I could have swore to God you said that.
Here's what I said.
Because he says that you have to compete as a white belt.
Yeah. I don't want to wait and compete as a blue belt. I will compete as a blue belt, but I want to compete as a white belt.
I thought you told me you didn't want to.
What I had said was, and now I know for sure that this isn't like a rule. Number one, I just need to talk to Josh and Tony and everyone that coaches me and figure out a time that will make sense. Again, defensively, number one, I would not, unless it was in an open, I wouldn't be as 200 pounds. And he's one of those people that when he grabs a hold, and everyone says it, when he grabs a hold of you, you're just like, like what the heck? It's just freak strength. He would not be in my weight class. Like people in my weight class, like I feel very, very confident, but I had just kept hearing like, we want you to have at least a year of training before we have you compete. And I'm like, I'm probably going to get my blue belt before I hit that official year mark. So I was like, I don't think I'll be able to. Right. But then now I'm hearing of guys who have less time there than me who are like, no, I'm competing like next weekend. And I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, I don't know what we talked about that.
I could have swore to God you said you didn't want to compete as a white belt.
No, I want to compete as a white belt. The thing that I want to adjust with my goals up there say, get my blue belt this year. Podium as a white belt. Of course I want a podium as a white belt, but that shouldn't be the goal that's written up there, because anything short of podium wouldn't be a failure. I want to compete as a white belt. Of course I want a podium. Like, that's the ultimate goal, but I don't know if that's what should be written necessarily.
Why not
up there?
But you in your mind, you know that that's what you want to attain.
I do want to do that.
And you're not going to chalk it up as a failure if you don't.
Yeah.
So why not write it?
I don't know. I mean, it is written up there. That's the only thing that
would only be the emotional. If you knew, like, it affects your process and it affects how you respond to actually accomplishing something emotionally, that would be the only reason to not write it.
Yeah.
If that's what you want.
So
like,
maybe,
I could sit there.
Of course I do. I don't want to go to a competition to not
exactly right.
to not do really, really well.
Yeah. I don't want to go shoot at a black bear. I want to fucking kill it. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah.
The one up there that might truly need adjusted is the RCR WNOD. Like, I want to do that, but it kind of comes back to your,
does it fit right now?
Your rock climbing thing, and we talked about its skill attainment. And to do my A goal,
you'd have to train like a motherfucker, dude.
Well, to do that should be an A goal. There's a way to show up and suffer through it, but I don't want to do that, because
that could literally fuck up the rest of your summer.
And it will also completely detract from the A goal of staying super consistent with my jiu-jitsu training, which within that there's sub goals. Don't get injured. Like, stay very consistent. In order to do that, stay very consistent with your training. Don't get injured. And like, don't just be a body in the room. Like, be a great training partner. Like, learn, soak up everything you can. And if I'm going out and not training and then doing this 90-mile challenge, I'm going to be destroyed, which is going to take away how many weeks potentially.
Oh God, it could be the rest. It could be months.
Especially because it's not just like, if it was like go walk 90 miles or even like run it, but as slow as you want, like that wouldn't, but like there's a major weighted component to that challenge. Like,
yeah, you could destroy, or you could get hurt really badly.
So that is still like a B, C goal, but I would adjust the date on that. I don't know that in fact, I could pretty confidently say, I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think for me to get 55 more classes, I should be able to do that by late September. It depends on vacations here, but late September, definitely October, at the absolute worst, like barring injury or anything, like November. So like I'll be well ahead of my time frame for that. But that also means that I need to get into competition mode and compete like sooner than later. It's already almost June.
Yeah.
So no, I absolutely want to compete as a white belt. The last thing I would want to do is have my first, I've competed in no-gi before, but have my first competition in the gi be at blue belt. That, to me, like...
Okay, well then I misheard you. I misunderstood.
Like, white belt is typically about, like, if you're consistent, white belt's like a year pursuit. So you're going to be with people who are in their first year. Yeah. When you get to blue belt, man, you could... And of course there's outliers. There's people that have their white belt forever, but like, you're jumping in there with some people who probably have a number of competitions under their belt, pretty high level, and then, man, you could have your blue belt for years. So no, I definitely want to do that.
Okay, but, I was wrong.
Yeah, you were wrong.
Not afraid to say that.
So I don't know. I might take the RCR one off there. It's still gonna be a thing. I just don't know when. No. But in all this, as we wrap it up here, you can go back and listen to, I don't remember what the title of the podcast episode was, but we did, this is like a mid-year check-in.
Right.
We did a podcast about setting physical goals in 2024, I think, and we talked about our goals. Yep. You said in that episode, basically, like, you put something up there, and there's so many people that haven't put something up there, and this wasn't a call out to them.
We haven't been on them enough to do it.
This wasn't a call out to them, but now it is a call out to them. But this is actually about you. And you had said, just put something up there, and you might find that it morphs. And that's all that's happened with you. But like, so if someone's listening to this, being like, man, Todd, like, back down that. No, like, you literally said it on that episode. Yeah. Like, you were moving towards something, and in that pursuit, like, oh, actually, it's this, and that's perfectly okay. We talked about a lot of things today, but I think that should be the big takeaway. Like, go after something. It's like what Corey said a couple episodes back. Like, do something. You could sit there and you could analyze and come up with the best plan, and well, maybe it could be this, and just do something. And once you do something, then you can iterate. You got to have a sentence to edit one, like you said years back. So just do something. Write down a goal. Go after that goal, and maybe you'll learn that that's not.
Well, that's the thing, is you have to make learning the most valuable thing. That's what you want.
Yeah.
You want to learn. So
I think that's it.
yeah, I got to pee.